Welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to the Porsche 992.2 GT3 and the stunning roads of Wales. Yeah, you see, these are the things you don't necessarily see when you're watching a video on YouTube. You don't see the effort that goes into filming it, because I came here yesterday and actually parked the car just on the grass there, and it was a beautiful sunny moment. There was a rainbow over there. It was the best intro to a film, and I did a little bit of stuff to camera there, and then a big black rain cloud came in from that direction and I got absolutely soaked. I sat in the car for about 50 minutes waiting for the weather to get better, and it didn't. So I thought, do you know what, that's not a problem. I'll recce. I'll use the intros that I've just filmed tomorrow. I'll come back. The weather looked good today, so I thought I'd come back. And yeah, I hadn't planned on it snowing overnight. It's currently 2 degrees Celsius. With wind chill, it's about -6. And I'm in a 992.2 GT3 on Cup 2s. So, yeah, it's going to be an emotional day of filming, but let me tell you a little bit more about the car. Do you know, for this one, I might keep my hands in my pockets just to try and keep them warm. So, I had the choice between getting the winged version of the GT3 or the Touring. And I went for the wing because I think there's elements of it a little bit more me. I've also got a good friend of mine who's got one of these coming very, very soon, and I kind of wanted to just give him my feedback, really. But the Porsche GB Touring press car is in a beautiful dark green. It's an amazing spec, so I hope to drive that maybe early next year. But when you look at the new 992.2 GT3, firstly, from the outside, they look very similar to the .1, really. You have to be a proper 911 nerd to spot the differences. But even on a piece of paper, when you look at the numbers are very, very similar. Well, actually, no, the numbers are exactly the same. They've both got 510 horsepower, 450 Newton meters of torque. They both have a 7-speed PDK gearbox or a 6-speed manual, depending on which one you spec. So you look at it and go, well, is it any different? Well, the simple answer to that is, yeah, it's very different, because the time that's passed since the .1 came out, emissions legislations have changed a lot, and the targets that manufacturers have to hit now in terms of things like NOx and particulate emissions are far, far more stringent, something between 30 to 50% more challenging to hit. So Porsche wanted to keep the 4-litre naturally aspirated flat 6 that revs to 9,000 RPM. They didn't want to turbocharge it or hybridize it. And in order to do that, they had to do a huge amount of work just to keep it a naturally aspirated flat 6, and to hit the existing numbers was challenging enough. And there is an argument to say that, do you really need more than 510 horsepower in a GT3? And I have to say, having driven this car for the last 3 or 4 days, no, not really. It's got ample amounts of go. When I booked this car in, I thought, I can't just drive it on the normal roads I review cars on, good as they are. I really want to take it somewhere special, put the extra effort in, and Wales was the natural option. I mean, just look at it. It is beautiful when there's no snow, but when it's got a dusting of snow, it's just a magnificent scenery, and this car is a magnificent thing. I'll talk you through the spec of this car. Let's few other things in terms of important numbers. Curb weight, 1,479 kilos is the curb weight that Porsche quote, although you can get that down to 1420 if you tick the right boxes when you're speccing one. And this car has those boxes ticked. It's got the GT3 double wishbone front suspension, multi-link rear suspension, both with anti-roll bars. It's got some really clever torque vectoring and rear axle steering going on. So underneath the skin, it's a complicated thing. And when I drove the 992.1 GT3, the thing I noticed over the outgoing GT3 was just the sharpness and the direct nature of the front end of the car. And it's still got that, but I think it's just been dialed back a little bit. We'll talk more about that once we're out on the road driving. I tell you what though, this wind takes your breath away. It's pretty cold, so apologies for the wind flutter. Now, before we head on out and explore the beautiful roads that surround me, earlier this year, the guys at Apollo Capital helped me finance the purchase of my dream car, my 718 Spider. And if you're watching this film thinking, I wonder how much that GT3 would be on finance, then get in touch with the experts at Apollo Capital for their latest rates and finance terms. They're the UK's award-winning finance broker, specialising in luxury, classic, hypercar and supercar finance. And their founders are passionate car enthusiasts, proper petrol heads. They've been financing cars for over 25 years. So if you're considering your funding options for a new or pre-owned car from any dealer, auction or a private sale, then do like I did and speak to Apollo Capital. They also offer refinancing of your current car, equity release and final balloon payment restructure, lending anything from £50,000 to £5 million. So call their office on 01423 590 242 or request a finance quote online at apollocapitalgroup.co.uk. But a huge thanks to all the guys at Apollo Capital for sponsoring this video and making this trip to Wales possible. Now I'm going to get inside the car and turn the engine on because I'm absolutely freezing. Oh yeah. Get some heaters on. Now, one thing I would really like spec-wise in this car are heated seats and a heated steering wheel, but doesn't have them, sadly. Now, inside is typical 992.2 fare, really, although it's got the starter tab. So unlike that horrible plastic start button that we saw in the T-Hybrid I had on test recently, the GT3's got the old starter tab, and I don't understand it. If they can put it in a GT3, why can't they just put it in all of their 992.2s? The main instrument binnacle, which is now the analog rev counter's gone, I'm actually starting to grow to really like that. In normal and sport mode, it's got the central rev counter, and the display I'm finding very, very useful today is on the left hand side. I've got my tyre information, both my pressures and my temperatures, and interestingly the air temperature at the moment is 2 degrees Celsius. The tyre temperature yesterday when it was cold and wet, I never got it above 15 degrees, and on Cup 2s really the operating window for Cup 2s is in excess of 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, so it's not the ideal tyre to be on at all, but that just helps me really understand where the tyres are in terms of their operating window. But when you turn the drive mode up into track, that central rev counter changes and the red line 9,000 RPM goes to 12 o'clock, and it also has some shift up lights. I absolutely love that display. It's really very cool and something you couldn't have done with the old analog one. So yeah, I like that a lot. I put this Porsche drinks bottle in the cup holder, and I'm not going to join the gang and bemoaning the placement of the cup holder. In this PDK car, it's not a major issue, but if that was a manual, that would just be a complete no-no. So putting a drink or a bottle there is a bit of a challenge. But then these seats, so these are the foldable bucket seats. They've evolved the seats. The 918 buckets that I've got in my Spider have been around a long time now. They are super comfortable, but fixed in position. These fold forward, and that gives you access into the back. Probably more useful if you'd gone down the touring spec and didn't have a beautiful carbon roll cage in the back, but it does at least give you the option to get in the back if you didn't have a cage. But the really nice feature, and I don't know whether I can do a Houdini on these, is if I push that, this comes off. And the idea behind that is that if you're on a track day and you're wearing a helmet, you can take this this top cushion off, and it just gives you a bit of space for your helmet to go, and then you just push it back on like that. There we go. So I like that a lot. That's very cool. These carbon buckets are very comfortable. I was in the car about 7.5 hours yesterday, and the main journey up to Wales was 3.5 hours, and I only stopped very briefly for a wee, and my bum did go a little bit numb by the time I got here, but on the whole they're super supportive. All I would say, and you'll hear this when we're out driving, this particular bucket has a squeak, and it's really annoying, and that's not great. There's a squeak on the dash somewhere as well. But all in all, I really like the interior. And then the final thing, which is a brilliant thing. Now, in the GTST Hybrid, there was a little star button. We've got one on the steering wheel here that you can configure to do stuff, and there was one on the dash here, and you could use that to turn off your ADAS systems. Now in this, there's an assist button. If you push the assist button, you've got all of your ADAS systems here, and you literally just go, oh, I don't want speed warning, don't want lane keep assist, and then that's it, they're turned off. It's that simple. I love that. Brilliant feature. Although I think they should have called it something other than assist, because when I first got in the car, I'm like, ugh, is that the call to breakdown assist if you have an accident or a breakdown? But no, that is your ADAS systems. Really simple feature. Like that a lot. Now, I reckon the sun's coming out, starting to warm up a little bit. Let's go and do some driving. And now we can enjoy this spectacular road that runs between Brecon and Builth Wells, if you're interested. Now, as I've said already, it's warmed up a little bit. It's now 6 degrees. Ooh, I'll get my shorts on. But I am very aware the fact that just getting any temperature into these tyres is going to be tricky today. That said, the rears are running at 19 degrees Celsius, the front's at 18, which isn't too bad. And lower down, the road's quite dry and there's no ice or anything around. I'm in normal mode, and I just thought I'd start by talking about driving this car normally, not pushing on, not trying to go for any lap times. What's it like as a normal road car? Well, in normal mode and letting the car change gear for itself, it's pretty civilized. The ride quality is quite firm, and there's a lot of road noise in this car. And a lot of that's to do with the fact that sound deadening has been stripped out to save weight. So you can hear, you know, stones being flicked up under the car. The rear tyres make a lot of noise in a 911 anyway, so it's quite a noisy place in here. It's not relaxing at all. If I think back to the Turbo 50 year I drove the other week, that had a firm ride height, but it was a really nice relaxing place. This, not so much. And then if you couple that in with just the precision of the front end, the amount of movement you get in the front of the car with the smallest amount of steering input, this car is quite a fatiguing car to drive. It's not relaxing in any way. That said, it's still a magnificent place to enjoy a road like this. And almost the conditions I've been dealt with today are quite nice, because you don't feel like you want to really push too hard down this road. You can just enjoy the beautiful scenery. The PCCBs, excellent feel. They have been squeaking a little bit. When I had the GT3 RS, those brakes squeaked a lot, and actually Porsche said, oh, they shouldn't really do that, so they had a look at them when the car went back. These have squeaked a little bit. They're not too bad today, but just under normal driving, you could easily daily this car. I think the Touring would be a more dailyable car, especially if you had no cage and some seats in the back, it would just feel less of a race car. And when you look out the rear view mirror, all you can see is that huge swan neck wing at the back of the car. And it's at night time, it's a bit distracting because it's right in your eyeline vision. So if you've got a car following you, now I've got a car behind me at the moment, it's daylight obviously, but with their headlights, they go in and out of the blockage caused by that wing, and you get the effect of almost them flashing their lights. It can be a bit disconcerting, if I'm honest. Question is, how much are they, and just how mad could you go on the Porsche Configurator? Well, I thought I'd explain or talk you through the spec of this particular press car, because it's quite impressive. Now, I thought it would be fun to show you just how mad you can go on the Configurator when you spec one of these, because that's a very well spec car. So the 992.2 GT3 starts at £158,200, but let's add a few pounds and pence onto that, shall we? Now, actually, the first thing is the paint colour of this car, white, a no-cost option. That's a good place to start. Interior with extensive leather and Racetex items, including Racetex on the door sills just there. £1,017. It may be a sports car, but it's still got Isofix, £154. This car has an extended package Racetex as well, with decorative guards red stitching. That is another £1,067. Seatbelts in guards red, £380. Born in Flacht logo LED door courtesy lights, £246. Chrono stopwatch instrument dial and digital tachometer in guards red, £462. Bose stereo, £1,269. Okay, we're getting to the punchy ones now. Front axle lift, £2,701. Protective foil front, or PPF to me and you, £2,054. Tinted HD matrix LED main headlights and accent ring in white, £2,495. Now, these lightweight sports foldable bucket seats may well look nice, but they are £5,390. But the top three most expensive options on this car start with the Porsche Ceramic Composite Brakes, or PCCBs, with brake calipers painted in black high gloss, £9,797. Second most expensive option on this car are these stunning 20 and 21-inch 911 GT3 forged magnesium lightweight wheels. They reduce the weight of the car by 9 kilos, and that is unsprung mass. They may well look lovely, but they are £13,759. Finally, the most expensive option fitted to this car is the Weissach pack, and that includes a carbon fibre reinforced plastic front bonnet, wings, roof, door panels, and inside this absolutely beautiful carbon roll cage. You also get 6-point racing harness, anti-roll bar and coupling rods in carbon fibre reinforced plastic. The Weissach pack comes in at a hefty £19,500 or £15,500 without the roll cage, but it does reduce the car's weight by a further 12 kilos. That is how you get your 992.2 GT3 to cost £218,650. Ouch! Yeah, you could get yourself into a lot of trouble on the Porsche Configurator with this car. So, next thing, I'm going to twist the drive mode and put it up into sport. It doesn't change the display, but it just sharpens things up a little bit. What I'm also going to do is just knock the selector over to go into manual override, drop it down a couple of gears, and while we've still got some dry-ish road and my tyres are starting to come up to temperature, just enjoy this road a little bit more. The PDK box in this car It is a spectacular thing. On the way up or on the way down. It doesn't have the very definite click the GT3 RS had. It's a little bit more subtle than that. The paddles are quite small, but they just sit exactly where your fingers are when you're at quarter to and quarter past. And this car has such a massive rev range. I mean, clearly what you really want to be doing is getting it all the way up to that 9,000 RPM red line. There you go. I had to get a 9,000 out of it before we get up onto the tops when the traction starts to be a bit more limited. But this road is just an absolute belter. Lots of hidden crests and hidden dips. I've driven up and down this road about 8 times over the last couple of days, so because it's an absolute mega road. And unlike a lot of the roads in Wales, it's still a national 60. Lots of the really nice roads in Wales, they've kind of put 50-mile-an-hour average speed cameras on. And when I came up here this morning, there was still snow on the road, so I will be careful. My tyre temperature is now up to 25, which is, considering the air temperature is 4, that's much, much better. I'm still going to take it easy. The road in the middle is actually drying out, but it's just, I think bringing a car like this to an environment like this just opens up its soul, lets you really understand what the car's all about. And it's all about exploring and exploiting beautiful bits of ribbon tarmac like this. Now, next thing we need to do, although I want to do it mainly because the dash readout changes, and I absolutely love the track mode dash layout. They rotate the rev counter like they used to do in the old race cars so that the red line is at 12 o'clock. And there's this brilliant set of change-up lights, and it just gives you a great view. Talking about great views, I mean, how lovely is that? Over the... Oh, I mean, come on. What I love about this car is if you want to give it proper 10 tenths and you want to rev it out to 9,000 RPM, I mean, clearly you need the road conditions to do it. A circuit would be preferable. It just delivers this incredible driving engagement, but you don't have to do that to still get that same kick, that same buzz. Yes, it's nice to rev it out to the red line every now and again, but if you just drive it within the kind of 6,000 to 8,000 RPM, the noise, the way the chassis moves, the feeling of the car underneath you just ticks so many boxes. And that for me is what a GT3 is all about. They're just wonderful driving machines. They will destroy lap times on track. They'll give you an amazing sense of driving achievement. They let you just couple into them so well. But on a normal road at 6 or 7 tenths, they're just as awesome and just as amazing and give you that feel. And now this road's tightened up. What I love about it, over a 15-mile stretch, it's got lots of different types of road. There's the kind of twin lane open country road. There's the top of the moorland bit. Now we're on there's no white line in the middle of the road, so you've got to be careful because there's barely enough room for 2 cars if one comes the other way, so you keep an eye on things, and every now and again you'll notice a sheep tucked into the hedge line. You have to be super careful. You do have to resist the temptation to give it some proper levels of squirt and red line it, because today is not the day to do that, not if you want to stay on the road. Anyway, it's very nearly time to head home. But I'm on the M4, and as I cross the Prince of Wales Bridge to leave Wales, I thought I'd do a couple of things. Firstly, I just want to talk about this car when you're cruising on the motorway. I've currently got the cruise control set to 70 miles an hour, and the road noise is pretty loud in here. I've mentioned already the lack of sound deadening is great because it gives you that raw race car feel, but it is also pretty loud. At 70 miles an hour, the engine is doing 3,100 RPM, and it's not too drony actually. I would imagine though, if you're in France where you're going to be cruising at like 80, 85 miles an hour, the revs build up even more, and then the cabin noise is significantly more. That's worth bearing in mind if you're going to do any long distance journeys in this. The only comfort is when you get to wherever you're going. I don't know, let's say you drive down to the south of France. You've got the Route Napoleon to make yourself feel better, so knock yourself out on that one. But actually, its road manners on a cruise, on a motorway or dual carriageway are pretty good, to be honest. But my final impressions of the car after, well, by the time I get back to Porsche, I will have done 600 miles in this car in the last 5 days or so. It's a wonderful bit of kit, a really wonderful bit of kit. I need to drive the Touring now because I think, and maybe this is just me getting older in life, I think the Touring would actually be more of a car for me. First up, I know Tracy was not a big fan of the wing and stuff. I love it, and I'd love to take it on a track day, and I'd love to really push on some Spanish Pyrenean mountain roads on a tour. But I think on a day-to-day basis, the Touring with some seats in the back and no cage would probably be the better option. Would I opt for the lightweight magnesium wheels and Y-Sack pack? Probably not, to be fair. I can see the attraction of it. I'm sure from a resale point of view, it's probably a strong thing to do. But it just adds an absolute shed load of money to the package. You know, Y-Sack pack and lightweight wheels, that's £35,000. That is a lot. You buy a really nice Boxster for that, a second-hand one. So yeah, I wouldn't go silly on the spec. I just don't think it needs it. I think just, you know, a few sensible options. Nose lift, very important. Even with the nose lift, I've struggled a couple of times over the last couple of days with leaving car parks and things. But I hope you've enjoyed that. I've worked hard the last couple of days. I wanted to bring a film that just had something a little bit special, had some nice visuals, and Wales has been wonderful. I've had an absolutely great time. The weather's been very challenging. Yesterday with rain, today with the cold temperatures. I'm finally warm again, but I'm going to let you love you and leave you and head on back to Porsche GB. I'll be having a word with them. I'll try and get the Touring early in the new year. Thanks once again to Apollo Capital for sponsoring the video. The links are in the description below and in the pinned comment. Check them out if you do want to look at financing a new car or refinancing your car. They really are very, very good. Their rates are very competitive, but their customer service is absolutely spot on. But I shall see you on the next one. If you enjoyed that, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.